Yes. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Veterans Minimum. My guy, young Zach Wilson in the building.
The future.
The future. Corona boys.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the first Jets fan with a Zach Wilson jersey. I haven't seen any other ones.
Yeah, you might be.
I think. I was all in before the draft, so people probably want to watch a couple games, or, a couple games or two before they invest. I'm already invested.
You're in, yeah. You're early to the party, so if you ever run into him, you could be like, "Yeah, I bought all the stock before everyone else could."
Show you the Twitter receipts.
Yeah.
So now I'm pumped.
Sipping on the Rona. Yo, you look good, man.
Thanks,
you
bro.
down OD from like the first couple, heart of winter when you would come on the pod to now.
COVID,
Yeah.
I mean, that variant's no joke, but relatively speaking, we're doing okay here at least. So, but still, yeah, working from home, being able to kind of work out whenever I want.
Mm-hmm.
The weather, going for walks, just doing the thing.
Doing the thing. I want to point out that the Biggie poster fell down right when we were about to start recording. Tried to put it back up, and then it fell again. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll understand why.
Can't you, Photoshop something there?
I could, yeah. I could do that. That's a good point.
Put, whatever you want.
You know what I'm thinking of doing? When you see the clips, I'm going to be OD slid to the left so that the Stone Cold one pops in. But on the grand scheme of things, to the YouTube channel, you'll be able to see the hole there that's missing. But, yo, I want to talk a little NBA with you. My favorite person to talk NBA with. Game 5 last night.
Big.
Last two games have been bangers, bro. They were close. They were competitive. They were big swings for both teams. Like yesterday in Game 5 in the first half, the Suns went up 16. I'm like, damn, yo. Especially how I feel as if both teams play so much better at home.
The role players play better at home. That's kind of the thing. Don't get me wrong. The stars are playing better at home too, but it's the Bridges of the world. Mm-hmm. As an example,
Cam Johnson's,
those guys.
Cunnington.
He was on fire last night.
But he's outside of a couple of a handful of moments, he's played very well for the Bucks.
Credit to Budenholzer, who is who's been criticized for not being able to make in-game and in-series adjustments, and he shortened the bench. He's playing. He has this Giannis at the 5 lineup that's been working really well. He's kind of limiting Brook Lopez's minutes, and he's been playing, but I just think that Giannis at the 5 lineup has been really effective, and credit to him. He made some changes in Game 2. He put Drew Holiday on Chris Paul. Chris Paul has had an amazing playoff run. Although, some of the injuries here and there, he's looked great and he's looked bad. People want to potentially say it's an injury. I just think it's Drew Holiday really kind of, showing you why he's an elite 2-way player. So you make the switch. PJ Tucker's been running around chasing after him too, but just being able to put Holiday on him as well. Credit to Budenholzer again, shorting the bench, go with the Giannis at the 5 lineup. Home team lost, right? What's the old cheesy cliche? Series doesn't start until a home team loses.
Yeah.
Well, the home team lost.
Well, how many series have never gotten started if a home team won every single time, right?
Yeah.
So what happens if it goes 7 and every team wins at home? Then the series never happened. I kind of don't like that saying, but I get it.
It's a cheesy cliche. Right. That's why I prefaced it. But what I'll say is this: I think. Do you think Chris Paul is hurt?
I do.
Yeah,
I really do. Yeah, remember 2 years ago, I thought Aaron Rodgers had a torn ACL, and then they ended up going all the way to NFC title game. So I was wrong. But CP3, I do think he's not yesterday. He had a couple of moments where he did it, but in games 3 and 4, he wasn't really getting by guys the way he was earlier in the playoffs.
Also, he's turning the ball over. He's bobbling passes.
Well, I do think it's what you mentioned though too before about Drew Holiday. Yeah. That Drew Holiday play to end the game where he stripped Booker and then threw the alley. And then when you factor in how well he shot from the field, Drew Holiday was 12 of 20 coming off a 4 of 20 game where I tweeted this out before the game started. The Bucks just need Drew and Middleton to not both go ghost.
You're right.
If one of the two shows up,
you're right.
They'll win.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think back to the Nets series where KD hits the big shot, right, to force extra time. But Holiday had a terrible first 3 quarters of that game. He couldn't hit a shot. And then what happens? He gets hot. He hits his last maybe 3, 4, 5 shots. And the Bucks wind up winning the series, and they end up, going into the NBA Finals. So you're absolutely right. If 2 of the 3 guys can can play up to their potential, they're a better team. I'm fascinated by what's going to come next because I hate seeing all of this. Middleton's Batman and Giannis is Robin. That just shows your basketball IQ. Like, Middleton is a better ball handler, right? He's a better shooter. Maybe that's why the ball's in his hands a little bit more, and let Giannis kind of work down low to simply flat out say like, oh, Middleton is the Batman because he has the ball in his hands. Like, that's just I don't agree with that.
Well, he is their closer.
Well, yeah.
So maybe from that notion, he is Batman.
Yeah, but what about the rest of the beginning of the game?
Right.
And there's so much more than just being the closer to being a Batman, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. It's what you do on the defensive side of the ball as well. I thought it was crazy that he threw the alley, right? He could have dribbled the ball out. That was nuts, the Jrue Holiday steal.
But, you know how I am. If I was a coach or if I was a player, I love aggressiveness.
Get the bucket if you got it.
How many times way back in the day when we talk about when we used to have the whole gang on the show and we would talk about overtime in football, right? Like, if I have Aaron Rodgers lost like 4 straight playoff games in which he didn't touch the ball in overtime.
Most notably last year.
Right.
Yeah.
But
not most.
That wasn't in overtime. But I'm talking about like the Cardinals year, the Seahawks year, those years where he comes back from a deficit. Remember what he did against Arizona, bro? He threw like 2 Hail Marys. And then what happens? They kick the PAT. They send it to overtime. Larry Fitzgerald breaks like a 60-yard catch from Carson Palmer. And then that's it. Game's over. If I have our Aaron Rodgers, I got Mahomes, I got Russell Wilson, Tom Brady. If I have my elite players on the field or on the court, I want the ball in their hands, and I want them to dictate what's going to happen because I can live with that. You got me here. Live by the sword, die by the sword.
They're playing not to lose instead of playing to win.
Yes, and I'd rather you be aggressive, and that iced the game, bro. That alley-oop and one, he makes his free throw.
Yes.
And then that's a wrap there.
I also wanted to say, like, I understand you're in the heat of the moment, but the Chris Paul push while Giannis is midair was a little dangerous.
It was.
I get it. You're in the heat of the moment, but that was dangerous. That could have went bad. And granted, he's probably trying to push him off his line so that
it didn't seem malicious. It was an instinct. Yeah, I'm trying my best to prevent this from happening.
It could have went a lot worse.
Yeah.
Giannis is showing out, I think. The idea that he hyperextended his knee and it looked so bad a few weeks ago to what he's doing now, it's unreal. And maybe, he's young. He's what, 26?
26, yeah.
So he's got that. He has that kind of. He's young. He's youthful. He has that ability to bounce back. I'm just so impressed. And look, it's funny because if the Suns win the series, I think they'll draw some criticism. Oh, that was a weird year. The Suns won, right? Looking back on this season down the line, people are going to be, if the Suns win, the narrative will be, oh man, fluky year for the Suns, crazy season, all those injuries. But I truly believe that if the Bucks win, which I do think they will, you won't hear any of that. You're going to hear this is when Giannis took that step. This is when Giannis cemented himself. I don't think you're going to hear any. I don't think you're going to hear anything.
I disagree.
We'll see.
Because I think the way that Nets series was going, if Kyrie don't get hurt, even just Kyrie, if Kyrie was just there, they would have won.
I definitely hear you.
And I think rather convincingly. So I do think there'd be more pushback on the Suns if they win as opposed to the Bucks. Giannis averaging in the finals 32, 13, and 5 with 61% from the field. Again, a hell of a point about how it looked like his season was done. And not only his playoff season, all of next year too, because he got hurt in the middle of June? Early June?
Yeah.
And if that was a torn ACL, by the time you come back and recover, that would have been dangerous. I was on the Bucks. I had both of these teams going to the finals from a betting standpoint, back in late March, based on how it was going to play out. Yeah, did both teams benefit from injuries? Absolutely. But I think what's happening with Giannis is last night it seemed like they let him roam around a little bit more and facilitate, which I liked. And the whole playing him at the 5 was rather unique.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of credit got to go to Budenholzer.
For sure.
And also to my guy, Pat. Yo, he's been solid,
Pat C, man.
Yo, he's been solid. The random white dude just out there just hitting threes.
The fake pass shot
yes.
on the wing was unreal. Yeah, they've made the bench way shorter. They're playing 7-6 guys.
Yeah. Well, yesterday they played 8 guys yesterday, but Jeff Teague played like 7 minutes. Yeah. So they basically played 7 guys. But Connaughton played 33 minutes, and he hit 4 of his 6 threes.
Yep.
And that was big.
Yeah.
And you know what? They were battle tested, bro. Chipping away and shit. Yeah. Like being able to come back and not fall at home. You saw how crazy the crowd was. The dude counting the hundreds.
Yep.
Right? Like that guy is the Suns' money man. He's probably sick right now because I'm sure he had some money on that game based on how his whole setup was and all that dough. But I think what you saw there is the Bucks. That big 3 from Milwaukee all played well yesterday.
Yeah. And look, bro,
32, 29, and 27. Like them 3 just absolutely went bananas.
Middleton hit some really tough shots, some tough contested jumpers. Bobby Portis giving you some
free
energy.
Bobby.
Yo, he says it all the time.
Nick's great.
Whenever Bobby Portis gets interviewed, bro, he says it all the time. He goes, "I took less money to come here to win," and it's true. He wasn't terrible last year. Like I watched Bobby Portis a lot. He wasn't bad. And like people were kind of shitting on him early in the year for saying that. Like, he's just trying to grab attention or whatever the case is. It's true. Like, he's a really great modern big for the NBA today. He can shoot. He can put it on the floor. Tough as nails, So, credit to what they're doing. And again, I think you hit it on the head with Budenholzer. Drew Holiday, though, I guess at the end of the day, it turned into, I think it was 4 or 5 picks in terms of the trade. Bucks went all in. It turns out, obviously, that Giannis resigns.
Right.
And that's kind of how all of this started. And so far it's panning out.
Well, I do want to say it's panning out because they're up 3-2. The job isn't done yet. To quote the late great Kobe.
And he even said that, Giannis. Right. He understands.
Right. I think they need to close it out in 6. That game is on Tuesday. Have you noticed that the schedule is really funky? It's been 3 days rest between games, but then game 6 to 7 is 2 days.
Money, I guess.
Why? You're still going to tune in.
Dragging it out? I'm not sure.
Maybe dragging it out. Yeah.
It's not it is a travel. Technically, it's for travel, right?
It is for travel, but Milwaukee to Phoenix isn't entirely like New York to LA.
Yeah.
It's relatively closer.
Yeah.
I remember they were saying one time there was like a Stanley Cup final where the team played in like Edmonton, and then the other team was like, it was like a 6-hour commute back and forth. And then when they had the 2-2, 1-1-1, it's like, going back and forth and shit, different time zones. But what do you think happens though? I want to paint the scenario for two different scenarios. What happens if the Suns win this series for the Bucks?
You got to run it. I mean, you're going to run
I know, I get that, but like, what's going to be the narrative of Milwaukee if that happens? Like, what's going to be the backlash?
The problem is like...
Because I think both of these teams, whoever loses, is going to get shredded.
Yeah, you can't pin it on Giannis, though, right? Unless he, like, implodes the next couple of games. And even so, it would still be hard to kind of, like, put this on Giannis, right? So it'd probably be on the roll guys.
Well, he was about to blow it in Game 5 with those missed free throws.
Yeah.
And then he got the tip back, which, like, he missed. It was funny. I think it was Van Gundy or Mike Breen were like, he missed so bad that they couldn't get the defensive rebound. That was a great free throw attempt.
And then it went out
to
Van Gundy.
Yeah, and then it went out to Middleton, and then he missed one, hit the other, and kept it at a 3-point game. But so what do you think?
It'd probably, they try to, like, pin it on one of the role guys.
Nah, the full guys would always be the studs.
I mean, they've just been the thing with Middleton is just like, I wouldn't be surprised if he has a dud next game. Middleton, to me, at this point, like, he can't surprise me anymore. Like, he's so hot and cold from game to game. He could go 0 for 12, and I swear to God, bro, I wouldn't be surprised. That's why, to your point, the series is definitely not over yet, but they have to finish it. And if they lose, I can't see Giannis having a bad game. He's too locked in right now.
Yeah.
He's playing closer to the basket. He's taking less and less threes. As the playoffs have progressed, it was like he started with 3 threes a game. Now he was taking 2 threes a game, and now he's like, he may not even be taking.
He took one yesterday.
And that's, if I had to guess, it may have been because of the shot clock. Whereas even the Nets series, right? He was chucking up a whole bunch of threes. He's playing closer to the basket. Again, credit to Budenholzer. So I can't see him being the scapegoat.
If the Suns lose,
CP3 is already getting it.
Yeah, he's getting it now.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be Booker because Booker is like breaking mad. Like every time they show a graphic of Booker, it's like first guy since MJ, first guy since Kobe. Yeah. Shaq hasn't done this. It's like wild how great of a postseason he's had, and also his first playoffs.
Yeah.
To make it all the way to the finals. So I do think Chris Paul is going to be the guy that's going to get absolutely shredded by the media if they lose. Because like you said, they're already starting to
put it on Chris Paul. Yeah, because it's not fair to kind of give him all of the credit from the last series or even earlier in the series, right? And then kind of just like remove him from any of the blame. Now it's just kind of not fair. And I know Chris Paul is kind of like he's the engine of the offense, or you know what I mean, but I kind of think you may see Devin Booker, have the ball in his hands.
21 and 11 for Paul yesterday.
Yeah.
And people were still saying how he wasn't as aggressive. He's
also getting attacked on defense. Sorry to interrupt you, but the size is an issue.
So that's one thing that stood out to me. I think that they're beating them up physically. The Suns seem like a soft finesse team. And I don't mean that in like the players are soft. I think the way they play. Like they don't really back down people the way Milwaukee does, physically imposing. Like you just look at the size of Milwaukee just across the board and like their length and shit. Yep. And also Drew just being both ends of the floor.
Ayton, man, so hot and cold again, right? You have a guy who, was getting all of this praise last series, right? And even earlier on, and then he disappears at times. Like I think earlier in the series, he had a game where he had like 6 points, 9 rebounds, something like that, where, again, you need all of your guys to step up. And now what I'm curious to know is like what happens this offseason, by the way. I know we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but Chris Paul most likely will opt out.
Yeah, but I think he comes back.
What if they lose?
I still think he comes back. You can't make it all the way to the finals and then not make it back. By the way, Ayton game 1, I remember he was like 45-1 to win MVP. And then he had like 22 and 19.
Big game.
And I was like, yo.
I just
but even if they lose, bro, you make it all the way to the finals. I can't see that happening.
But now think about it this way.
Actually, you know what? I take that back. I wouldn't be surprised.
Because look, they not for nothing, with all due respect, they've had the easiest road to the finals in a really long time.
But not even that. The way the NBA is now, I don't think any move would surprise me. Dude, we saw Durant in 2016 leave to go to the Warriors after they had them down 3-1 in the Western Conference Finals.
Ayton's going to get let's just think about this financially and just think about the team and the way the roster is constructed. Ayton is going to get a max. Booker's already on a max. The Suns' owner, Robert Sarver, is known historically for being cheap. Is he going to have the 3 max guys or 3 close to being max guys on their roster? And if they are they going to be hamstrung elsewhere? Was this one of those years where they give it everything they got and then you kind
of like a Raptors buy-in on Kawhi one year?
I don't know if they're going to give Chris Paul multi-years at a high number. If they want to maybe run it back, like maybe he takes, because I think it's a player option. He has a player option at a high number. Maybe he opts into that and they try to run it back one more time. But the Clippers are going to be better. The Lakers are going to be better. The Nuggets are going to be better. Again, they had a pretty damn easy road to get here. And I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Paul is gone.
Watch out for Denver next year.
Yeah.
I'm already trying to take a look at their number. By the way, I looked down at my wrist like I had a watch, but there's no watch on over there. Last thing, do you think it's over?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Milwaukee's going to lose at home. Do you?
Both teams have been outstanding at home.
Yeah.
Like even remember the Nets beat the piss out of the Bucks and then they came back. Like they lost by they were up like 50 at one point. And then they came back and they took care of home. I'm sure Bakhtiari's going to be at the game doing some
chugging beers with his pops.
Like, just fucking pitchers of beers, not even cans anymore.
Dude,
I think it's over. I think Milwaukee cleans it up in 6. Yeah. 4 straight wins if that happens too, bro.
Bucks in 6, Brandon Jennings. Yeah. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah. That's been surfacing throughout. But yeah, I think it's done in Milwaukee.
Yeah. Hell of a run for the Suns though. We're doing their
eulogy.
It was a great year.
Well, what's cool is that by the time people hear this, it'll be like 2 days. But the game is Tuesday, which is nice. So you'll have Monday and Tuesday to listen to this. So we'll see. But there are a few other things, NBA, I want to talk to you about. I had Josh on the podcast a couple episodes ago. And I asked him about the Olympics. Do you care about Olympic basketball?
I'd care about it more if the NBA players didn't play. Like, I would... It's hard to say because we just lost 2 exhibition games to teams that we should have beat. But, like, generally speaking, we're going to be the favorites, right? If we have all of the best players, we're going to be the favorites. And I kind of wish there was a little bit more of an underdog feel to it, I guess. Although we didn't look that great the last time Team USA played, right? That was like the Kemba Walker year. That was like he was like the best player on the team.
Yeah, but they ended up winning anyway.
Yeah. Wait, no, they didn't.
Yeah, they won, bro. They won like.
What was it? No, I'm talking about FIBA a couple years ago.
Oh.
I'm just talking about Team USA as a whole, like when they come together and when they play.
I don't recall. I know they've won the Olympics.
They didn't even medal in that year. I think it was 2019.
USA basketball. Let's pull this up. Because I think you're wrong.
I'm 100% correct. They lost.
Let's see.
and it's stupid for me to bring that up. They finished in 7th place.
Really?
Yeah. You don't remember that was the Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum. Their best player was Kemba Walker. Donovan Mitchell, Joe Harris, Marcus Smart.
The reason why I don't remember is because
the elite guys didn't play.
No. When it comes to Olympic basketball for the U.S. men's team, if this is the highest level of caring and this is the lowest level of caring, I'm like
below it
at like the core of the earth. It does nothing for me. It's more impressive when other countries win than it is when the United States wins, just because of what you said. We have the best players in the world and all that. It doesn't do anything for me. I'm more fascinated when the other countries do well. When the U.S. wins, it's like, cool.
We're supposed to win.
Yeah. Like, I'm more shocked when they don't. But it's not intriguing to me because it is so lopsided. Like, when you look at it from a betting perspective, they're always like -200, 300 to win the whole thing. And then second place would be like the Gasol Spain teams, and they'd be like 7-1. And then Giannis and Greece were like 10-1 at FIBA a couple of years ago. But besides that, like, to me, the Olympics, if you're an American playing in the Olympics, the faster you bring up how many gold medals they won, like the Melo argument, you know how people are
it's
like,
yo, part of the Hall of Fame argument.
It's like, yo, bro, he got 3 gold medals. It's like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Like,
that's why
this is very important. I need to make this very clear and emphasize this. This is only talking about men's basketball.
Yeah.
If you're a swimmer from Idaho and you won a gold medal, congrats. A good congrats, not a fantasy congrats. But when you're the men's basketball team, it's not impressive to me if you won a gold medal.
Yeah, and Popovich was like getting chewed out a bit by the media. I'm not sure if you saw the clip. One of the reporters asked him a tough question, and he's like, how does it feel? In a roundabout way, he basically said, how does it feel losing a couple games when your average margin of victory is like 20 to 30 points? Mm-hmm. And Popovich tried to school the guy and pop, he got popped, but the reporter was correct. They're like 52-2 in these exhibition games, and they've lost. Like, USA basketball margin of victory is ridiculous. Those numbers are out of this world, and they've lost a couple games. Now they're bringing in JaVale McGee. Did you see that?
Yeah. Why?
I don't know. I'm just glad it's not Julius Randle. He needs that rest. I'm with you. I wish they went to college players. Like, I would be more excited. I would be able to watch up-and-coming players that I may not be as exposed to. Maybe they're the favorite, but maybe they're not as big of a favorite. And to me, it would just be more exciting. You're elevating some of these other guys. You know what I mean? Maybe I don't know how you do the numbers. Maybe they're juniors in college or sophomore. However you want to do it, just kind of change it up. Shades of the 1980s USA men's Olympic team. Kind of the stars before they became stars. You know what I mean? And not all those guys turned out to be NHL superstars, but nonetheless, I think I would be more interested if it wasn't an all-star team and it was kind of a young group of kids.
In soccer, there was a big controversy over the men's team failing to make the World Cup. More of a tragedy, and then them not making the Olympics, because in soccer there is a age limit restriction where I'm not exactly sure how many, but you're allowed 3 or 5 or 6 players over the age of 24 to be on that team. The rest of it is your under 23 team. You look at the United States, the reason why it was such an outcry is our entire roster, with the exception of like John Brooks from the Gold Cup game, is under 24. So we'd be able to send the team, if we were going to the Tokyo Olympics this year, the soccer team, they'd be able to send McKinney, Pulisic, Reyna, Tyler Adams, like all these like guys that are going to be at the core starters for the men's team the next 2 World Cups. And then you could bring on your old, like a Clint Dempsey, even though Dempsey's retired. That's a bad example. But like Josie Altidore, right? He's like 30 now.
Yeah.
So that would be something that would be dope to do if you're
NBA
basketball in the Olympics.
Bunch of college kids and maybe 1 or 2 NBA stars. Probably veterans, maybe.
Or you could send a Jason Tatum or a Zion, who Zion's not on the team too, which is mad random. But like you can send those guys, and they fit the mold of the under 23. But then you could send LeBron and like Damian Lillard, and those are like your older heads, the vets of the team. But the majority of it, that would make it more interesting to me.
Yeah, all young guys.
All young guys, yeah. Or up-and-comers.
Yeah. I'm not as into it, though, to be honest. I mean, I actually think I'm more fascinated now because they're losing. You know,
that's a good point. Now it might be more interesting to us to watch because there is that sort of, they might lose. They're not as strong as we thought they were.
Yeah, and Patty Mills just turns the fuck up when he puts that Australian jersey on.
What about I saw a lot of people saying this is how the officiating should be, because you saw a lot of the American players diving into calls.
They're not getting
these
calls.
Threes and kicking their legs out. They're not getting those calls. Is that something you want to see implemented in the NBA?
They're going to change the way they call the games next year. I think they've already gone on the record saying that. Adam Silver has done that. So I think the fans understand that all of these tic-tac fouls are corny, and I think it's that'll be changed soon. But the international game is completely different. It's played differently. So,
it was a good
and
point.
a lot of these guys. One last thing. A lot of these guys have histories of playing together. Your Joe Ingles, your Patty Mills, right? These international guys, essentially, they play on the same team every year, right? Whereas Team USA, they're just throwing a bunch of guys together. Every 2 years, every 4 years, it could be a different group.
Who wants to go to the Olympics? All right. You don't want to go? All right, cool. Next guy up. As opposed to everyone else. Yeah, I also think it might be more of a pride thing for other countries to try to slay Goliath and beat the United States.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the Olympics just as a whole? Are you a fan of the Olympics?
Yeah. I mean, I wish.
Yeah, the tone in your voice wasn't really that.
I mean, I wish they weren't. They weren't doing it during a pandemic, because now they had to like remove the fans. In Tokyo. So, I guess the numbers weren't as bad when it started as to where it is now. So, obviously that doesn't make it anything better. So, I mean, I'm not. I don't know. I'll probably tune in, of course, but to the basketball. But I don't know if I'm watching, 400-meter dashes.
It's funny you bring up that one, because those are the only ones that I watch.
Fascinating.
I watch the track and field. That's dope to me. When I think of Summer Olympics, I think of the 100, 200, and the 400-meter races.
That's dope.
Besides that, like, it doesn't. The other thing is, to get somewhat political. Dun dun dun. To get somewhat political, anytime a country builds for the Olympics, when it leaves, it's a nightmare, bro. Dude, where Greece in 2004 was such a big thing. Like, the Olympics is returning home to where it originated and shit, and the place where they did the synchronized swimming became like an abandoned lot.
Same thing happened in Brazil.
Yeah, it happens. And it just, the citizens of the country, they despise it because all that money's going into making it a tourist attraction and more to cater for the rest of the world as opposed to like the people that are struggling in that country.
Yeah.
Like my family in Greece fucking hated it. So I could speak to that because I saw it from experience. But then I had an uncle who owns a hotel, and he was like, "Yo, we've to this day have never had more success. But then, like, my family who's not as fortunate, they're like, yo, it was whack.
Yeah.
It sucked. You know, we're living in, I don't want to say poverty, but in bad conditions. And then you have all this money being fixed to, like, Olympic Stadium and all this shit. And it happened to Brazil with the World Cup and that. I'm of a believer, and this is going to sound super, like, nationalist, but every major tournament event should be in the United States because they never need to build anything. Sochi, they had to build all those stadiums. In Tokyo, they were making the changes too. Where, like, in the United States, bro, there's college stadiums that fit 90,000 people.
There's other countries around the world that have the infrastructure already. So I see what you're saying. Put it into a place where you don't have to build a bunch of shit.
Go to Germany, right? Germany's going to be the next Euro Cup in 2024. They don't need to build anything
They have
new.
50 stadiums across this country.
And they had the World Cup in 2006 also. So it's like they don't need to put... Yeah, they might, like, revamp a couple things, but they're not tearing down neighborhoods to build a new stadium.
Yeah. It's a lot. I mean, I don't want to speak out of my ass, but I'm sure there's a lot of shady shit going on behind the scenes.
Oh, I mean, like the Qatar World Cup is like super duper controversial.
Yeah. So, a funny story. You know Hudson Yards on the west side of Manhattan in New York City? That whole area was actually developed because of the Olympics in New York City.
Oh, wasn't it where the Jets were going to put their stadium?
So supposedly, and I have some inside information here, but
let's go. # Source Life.
No, for sure. The guy who essentially helped develop Hudson Yards, who was basically Bloomberg's right-hand man, at the time when Bloomberg was the mayor of New York City, they knew early on when they were putting the bid in for the Olympics, they knew they were going to get the Olympics. But what they did kind of believe in is that west side of Manhattan area, which is now Hudson Yards, which is just a bunch of train tracks and not much else. Abandoned warehouses, train tracks, all of that.
And now it's like a dope spot to be in.
And they knew, right? They knew that they weren't going to win the Olympics, but they proceeded with all of the bids and going through all of the bullshit because, okay, we're not going to build the Olympics. We have all of these plans and these ideas. Fuck it, we're going to build something else. So I'm sure other shit like that happens too, where these countries or these cities are making a play for something and they probably know they have no chance, but it's the idea and the belief within this specific area to do something else with it, maybe for selfish reasons or not, so interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating. When you talk to people about the Olympics, I don't know. It never did it for me, the Olympics, outside of like a handful of events. And I think one of the reasons is that, the other reason is, some of the rules that are in place. Like, you ever seen Icarus, that documentary on Netflix? It's so this dude, it's really dope. I've heard a lot of people talk about it. I think it won like not an Oscar, but it won some like big award too. Award. But basically, this dude wanted to compete in like the Tour de France or some like huge bike.
Was this the Russian doping thing?
The Russian doping thing. So, like, a lot of these other countries use things like that. Kind of soured my taste on, like, the Olympics and that whole experience. And also, like, a lot of these men and women, they spend their whole life competing for it. And then after the Olympics, even if they win medals, they're kind of afterthoughts.
We need to win gold.
For what? Basketball?
Yeah. With the team they have?
Yeah, they should.
So
we should.
You want to talk about Dame?
Yeah, let's. Another guy who's on the Olympic team.
Yeah,
what do you think happens?
So bad. I mean, I don't feel bad, but I do feel bad, for the sense that this is kind of becoming a distraction, I guess. Whether it's self-imposed or not, the idea that this has become a distraction sucks. Because he's like sitting there, Team USA gear on, media availability for Team USA, and then he's getting asked questions about the Blazers in the NBA, which is tough. A lot of moving pieces, right? The Blazers may sell the franchise. There's instability within the organization as a whole, right? The GM may be on his way out. They just hired Billups, who had the rape allegations and the rape scandal from years and years and years ago. Dame is pissed because the fans are kind of turning on him. There's just a lot to unpack.
Well, recently, it's been a couple of years now, but Paul Allen died.
Yeah. No, that's the whole thing. There's instability.
Right. He also owns the Seahawks and the Sounders. Shouts to the MLS. And
Jody has taken over, and the team hasn't been run as smooth despite the success on the court because of Dame. And it's tricky because these NBA franchises have such high valuations, you'd think, even if Dame's not on the team, the Blazers would still get sold for a lot of money. But as an owner, would you want to buy the Blazers if the star player wants out?
So that's a fascinating question, because if I was an owner and I had the luxury of buying a franchise, I don't know if I want to stumble into a situation where I got a guy who's 31 years old that's going to be making $50 million a year close. Now, if I'm going to buy, you know what team I would want to buy right now if I could? The Pelicans. First of all, I'm not paying Zion yet. I can dictate how much or decide how much I want to pay Zion. I'm not inheriting any wild fucking contract.
Well, I mean, you are you whatever the max is what you have to pay.
Right. But
I see what you're saying.
It's my decision.
Yeah, which you have to.
Which I would end up doing. Yeah. But I'm saying I like to know that I have that luxury of being able to make that decision.
Yeah.
Do you think he gets traded to – where do you think he gets traded to? Because I don't know if it's a hot take. It probably won't happen.
Golden State?
Well, Golden State is the one that is probably the most likely because of what Portland could get back in return.
Could
probably get the two picks in this year's class, maybe throw in next year's class. You could throw Wiggins, Wiseman in there too.
Yeah.
You know, Wiseman was a top 3 pick. Let's not get crazy like he's a jobber.
They didn't love him early. They didn't expect him to be as raw as he was.
Yeah, but I also think it's more of NBA Twitter and people outside of Golden State that feel that way about Wiseman. I think they're high on him and they like him.
They are high on him, but
yeah.
I think that I wouldn't be surprised if he was included in a trade package.
Portland is probably the most likely and reasonable scenario. I floated this idea out about like Dame for Anthony Davis, just straight up.
I don't think the Lakers would trade Anthony Davis.
Why not?
It's LeBron's guy.
I get that.
That LeBron would have to okay that trade, but I don't think he does.
So my logic behind that is I don't think you could count on Anthony Davis to be healthy. Last year was an anomaly for him. It was the only time where he stayed healthy, and then they end up going to win the championship. I think Damian Lillard has shown you that he's healthy, and he's there.
Yeah.
The reason why the Suns are in the finals now is because Anthony Davis was hurt and he was compromised. Because if he was healthy and he played throughout that entire series, I think they dominate them.
I guess this year was a weird outlier because a lot of people got hurt. So I think it's
yeah, but it's not fair to say that for Anthony Davis because that's been his MO.
Is getting hurt.
Groin, hamstring, toe.
It sounds great. It sounds cool, but let's be realistic. They're not going to trade Anthony. I don't think they're going to trade Anthony Davis. I think it's Anthony Davis's team when LeBron leaves.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of everything that we heard, This is AD's team. AD's team. You watch Space Jam?
No, but I plan on watching it today.
AD is probably like the most featured goon from the
Goon Squad?
Yeah.
Dame is in that too.
Yeah. He's the 6th man.
Is there any way that Dame could end up on the Lakers and Davis isn't in the trade package?
I don't know. They don't have anything to give up. Nothing. Like THT is not doing it.
Kuzma?
I have this meme. It's like Lakers fans, right? It's like I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but it's like the SpongeBob where he like opens up a case or whatever, and it's like Lakers go to for a star requesting a trade. It's like THT, Kuzma, and a pick. It's like they always think that's gonna like move the needle.
That's not moving none.
Nah, I mean maybe like Ben Simmons.
Would the Knicks? Would you want him on the Knicks? I don't know if I want to gut the whole team to get him.
You hit it on the head.
You probably have to give up Obi, RJ.
I don't want to give up RJ. We have 5 first-round picks.
Give them all up.
I would give up quickly Obi Toppin and 3 first-round picks, but that's probably not going to do it for them.
And you're probably hearing the call drop on the other end if you present them that trade.
I mean, it depends. You don't know what else you're going to get.
If you're gonna make a trade with the Knicks, the only asset you want from the Knicks is RJ Barrett, so he has to be in that.
You could also want Randall's got 1 year on his contract. Probably don't want that. Yeah, it would probably again, but everything that I'm reading from Ian Begley, who is extremely looped into the Knicks, is the Knicks have no interest in trading RJ Barrett. Like he had an amazing second year. His jump shot was broken last year to shooting 40% from 3. Like. I know I'm a homer, and I come on this podcast a lot, and I talk about the Knicks. But last year to this year, the jump was unreal.
It was.
It was unreal. Like, it turned into RJ Barrett open corner three. He's gonna make the shot. Like, from last year, saying like, what are you doing? His game has taken a huge jump. So I think it all depends on what the Blazers want. If you want like a star in return, and you want maybe like a star and maybe a pick or two, maybe Philly's the move. You can move Ben Simmons, right? You still get an all-NBA defender, an all-star, 2-3-time all-star. All you got to do is just hit a couple free throws, and you're probably getting some value there. You know, I like Dame and Embiid. That fit much better. You get a reputable coach in Doc Rivers. That seems to be like an interesting play. But again, if
you also got Daryl Morey, who's there, who's very, very aggressive.
Yes.
He don't give a fuck about assets.
Anything. He wants to win.
Yeah.
He's itching. So again, I don't know if the Warriors can fit all those guys in terms of salary cap. Yeah, I'd have to figure that out. They'd probably have to send Wiggins back, right?
Yeah, Wiggins would have to be in that trade. But I also feel like if the Nets were able to pull off Kyrie, Durant, and Harden, I think anything is possible.
They'd have to get creative with the money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then pay a luxury tax also.
The Nuggets could be interesting if they send Porter Jr. back, and who knows what else they'd have to trade. Murray pick. I don't know. It's just so interesting, man, because Dame, he's one of those no-nonsense guys, quiet, never really, no drama, right? And then, he's starring in a movie, and now there's trade requests, supposedly. It's crazy to see how it all changed a little bit. And I don't blame him, right? Like, it's player empowerment. I'm all about that. He's given that team 11 years.
Yeah, man. At that, bro.
The problem, like, I don't want to say the problem is the reason it's kind of, I don't want to say problematic, but he's gone on the record saying, like, I'll never leave. And you have every right to change your opinion, but it's like, don't say all that stuff. Granted, if it was 3-4 years ago, whatever it is.
Bro, he's been with them since 2009.
Yeah.
He's given them everything he could. If you give someone 9 years and you want to, for the first time, decide to go somewhere for yourself, I can't blame you. At all. I thought the most ridiculous thing ever was when LeBron first left Cleveland and go to Miami and people were slandering him. It's like, bro, he gave you 7 fucking years. He got you to an NBA Finals, and the best thing you gave him was Larry Hughes and Ilgauskas.
Mo Williams.
You know what I mean? Delonte West. Those legends. Like, I can't fault the dude for that. For the first time, like, you get drafted by a team. You have no say in that. Outside of a handful of times in sports history where, like, John Elway was like, I'm going to go play for the Yankees.
Yeah.
Unless you trade me, get me out of, I think it was like the Colts wanted him or some shit. And then the, what's his name? Fucking Eli, I'm not going to go play for the Chargers. And then besides that, it's like I can't think of many other times where that's happened. So when you get drafted, it's like the team picks who they want. You don't get to pick the team. Whereas when you're a free agent and you could ask for a trade, that could be the first time in your career you're like, you know what? I'm going to decide to go play where I want to play.